My name is Melanie Mulvey. I'm the Assistant Director of Programs for Programs and Policy here at Achieving the Dream. Before we get started, I just want to take a minute and explain how to use GoToWebinar technology and how to use some of the features that allow us to make our presentation more interactive. So you should see a control panel like the one pictured on our slide. If you don't, it's because it's been minimized, and you can pull it back out by going to the Grab tab, which hides and shows the control panel. There's also an attendee list where you can see all of the participants on the call and see if your colleagues are around. If you have a question at any point, you can raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon on the control panel, and I can unmute your line to allow you to ask your question. And so I just want to start by testing that out and seeing if everyone can click on the hand icon if you can hear me. Okay, I see a couple hands going up. Just wait a minute. So if you can click on the hand icon if you can hear me. All right, one more second. Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. Another way that you can ask a question is through the question pane, and that is B here that you can see on the slide. You can type your question into the question pane, and I can read it to the group, or I can respond privately. All of the panes can be expanded or minimized by clicking on the plus or minus buttons that are at the top left of each pane. And just finally, in the past, we've had audio trouble from time to time. So if some reason you're having difficulty being heard, you want to make sure that you're not muted on your end and that you've entered the audio pin provided to you at the beginning of the call. If that doesn't work, you can hang up and call back in and be sure to enter the audio pin. Okay, great. Let's get started.
This is Carol Lincoln from Achieving the Dream. Welcome to everyone. Very pleased to have so many people on the line today for this exciting webinar. With us today from the Achieving the Dream team is Rhonda Glover, who is National Director of Data Coaching and Data Strategy. Melanie, you've already heard, introduce herself. Myself. And we've also got our special guest, who is also an employee of Achieving the Dream, Wei Song, who is the Director of Data and Analytics at Achieving the Dream. You'll hear from her in just a little bit. We're going to follow the usual format today. We will try to go through our Achieving the Dream business quickly. We do have a leading by example that we want to share with you, but we want to get as quickly as possible to today's presentation, where Wei Song is going to be talking about some of the Achieving the Dream data products that you may already be aware of and using, maybe some others that you are not aware of but would be able to use. And then she's also going to give us a bit of picture into the future of things that Achieving the Dream is working on and that are expected to come on later. We'll have an opportunity for questions and answers. And then I'll give you some information about the next Leader College webinar. So first, on business, the main thing we wanted to share with you is that there's been some additional personnel at ATD. There's been some folks who've gone on to bigger and better things, and we've been able to find wonderful, wonderful associates who are joining our team in their place. Carrie Henderson is the first one. Her title is Associate Director of Programs, and she's working primarily with Leader Colleges. So she'll be a familiar name and face for those of you who are Leader Colleges. She's essentially taking on many of the tasks that Sarah, why am I blanking on her name right now? Isn't it terrible? She's only been gone a little bit. But, pardon me?
Sarah Hollister.
Oh, yes, of course. What is the matter with me today? Sarah Hollister. Sarah Hollister has gotten a wonderful job in Philadelphia, and so now we have Carrie moving into that slot. Mary Harrell is a new person who is moving into a slot that was held by Meredith Hatch. Mary is Associate Director of Programs and Policy. She's going to be spending a good bit of her time working on policy issues as well as annual reflections and reports that we do to our funders and so forth, and we're really happy to have her. Meredith has not left us. She's moved over to take on the responsibility for overseeing the workforce programs that we're doing the TAC grants that we're involved in, and some of the other things that relate to workforce. And then Courtney Beatty is a very new person. I think she just started this week. Courtney is joining our communications team. She's a communications coordinator, and you'll be hearing more from her. She's been working on newsletters and social media and other kinds of things that you'll learn about as time goes by. So we're very, very pleased and welcome all of those new folks to our team. The shout out, the leading by example today, goes to Durham Technical College in North Carolina. Many of you may have remembered that we sent a note out saying that they were chosen to be the host for a White House National Policy Forum. This was led by the Initiative on Educational Excellence for Hispanics. And Durham Tech got to play host. The event was really, really well received. They were selected to be the host because of the work they had done this year on Achieving the Dream in terms of advocating and increasing access for Hispanic and Latino students at their institution. You'll see there's a place that you can click on afterwards when you get a copy of this PowerPoint and webinar where you can watch the video from highlights from that forum. But we wanted to say congratulations to Durham for their accomplishments and for being selected to play that important hosting role. We also noted this in our newsletter, so maybe some of you heard about it there as well. With that, I'd like to move quickly to our presentation today. Wei Song has been with Achieving the Dream not quite a year, but she's become a key member of our team, Director of Data and Analytics, working really, really hard to get the most out of all of our database and data products. And so with that, Wei, I'm going to turn it over to you and encourage folks to listen to your presentation, be thinking about questions they want to ask you either through the chat line or by raising their hands. And we'll see if we can have a really, really interactive, productive conversation. So go ahead, Wei, please.
Thank you, Carol, for your kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending the webinar. Before we get to the nuts and bolts of the data products, I'd like to touch a little bit on the Achieving a Dream student success model so that we'll have some background information. From the very early stage of the Achieving a Dream initiative, the goal has been to foster fundamental changes in the culture and operations of community colleges, changes that would lead to measurable and lasting improvements in student outcomes. Therefore, participating colleges were expected to implement a 5-step process of institutional reform. The first step is securing the leadership commitment, and then using data to prioritize actions, engaging stakeholders, implementing, evaluating, and improving intervention strategies, and finally, establishing a culture of continuous improvement. So data is an important piece of this model, and the thinkers believe all institutional changes should be student-centered and lead to student success. For student outcome tracking, Achieving the Dream promotes the use of cohort-based, longitudinal, student-level data. The colleges were asked to track and report the following 5 milestones of student progress and see if they move the needle. These 5 ATD student outcome measures are completion of developmental courses and progression to credit-bearing courses, completion of Gatekeeper English and Math, completion of attempted courses with a grade of C or better, persistence from term to term and year to year, and finally, attainment of college credentials. So as you can see, even though the measures sound clear, there's room for different calculation approaches and interpretations. For example, you don't really see a time limit for completing each milestone. So last year, we started this process of developing user-friendly data products for our colleges with the goal of making all measures consistent across the board. We first put together an advisory group of 6 or 7 data coaches. As you can imagine, it's not easy to get everyone to agree on the same thing. But finally, this is what we came up with. So each college student outcomes are calculated as the percentage of students in a fall cohort that have successfully completed developmental courses within 2 years, completed Gatekeeper English and Math within 3 years, completed all courses with a grade C or better in the first 3 years, persisted from term to term and from year to year, and attained college credentials within 3 and 4 years. So early this year, we released 2 waves of data products. The first is institutional data products. These data products are built from the college's own data submitted to the ATD database. The first one is Institutional Overview Report. This is a 2-page summary report in PDF format. It presents student demographics and college readiness information on the most recent 2 student cohorts, and also graphs on the 5 ATD outcome measures for all student cohorts. The second one is a summary data workbook in Excel format. It summarizes ATD students' outcome measures by cohort and by subgroups. The last one is the downloadable data file. These are data abstracts of all historical data your college has ever submitted to the ATD database in CSV format with SPSS and SAS programs for data inputting. A couple months later, we also released the benchmarking report. It is customized for each college. And in addition to presenting a college's performance on ATD's 5 measures of student success, it provides 2 external benchmarks. One is the averages of the colleges that joined ATD in the same year as your college, and the other is the averages of the whole ATD network. So this helps the colleges see where they are in comparison with other ATD colleges. How to access this data products? So currently, these data products are hosted on the ATD data submission site, dreamwebsubmission.org. And one college can have multiple accounts on the site. If you think you're an occasional user of this report, you can ask your IRIT colleagues to send you copies of this report. Or if you prefer direct access, you can contact me after the presentation. Now I'm going to log on to this website to do a live demo of this data report. Okay, now I'm onto this website. Because ATD takes it very seriously to protect the confidentiality of our college data, I'm just going to show you some reports built from a sample college. This is not a real college, but the data is very representative of our college's data. So after you log into the website, this will be the page you're going to see. This is a data submission grid. It gives the overview of data submission status of a college. For this sample college, its data submission is up to date. If you want to get to the data reports, you click on Reports and Downloads. The first item is the data workbooks. So on this page, you will see a number of things. First is Institutional Summary Data Workbook. You can click and download. Open this. Yeah, it takes a few seconds. Okay, it's here. Okay, this
Excel workbook, as I said, summarizes the ATD student outcome measures by cohort and by subgroup. So it has 11 tabs. The first tab is a very high-level summary of the students in each cohort. So it has the number of students, the total number of students, and how many persisted, what the percentage persisted to next term, to next fall, and what the percentage who completed award within 3 years and 4 years. And then the following 5 tabs, each has a outcome measure by cohort. So, for example, for this college's completion of developmental math and English within 2 years, it shows you how many students in the cohort, and how many were referred to depth math, and how many were referred to depth English, and what's the number and percentage of students who completed depth math or English within 2 years. And below you will also find a very simple graph. The same information is presented for each outcome measure, persistence and completion. And then the next 5 tabs presents the student outcome by cohort and by subgroup. For example, we click into the Step Add tab again. So we'll see the disaggregated results for each student cohort. We can see they were disaggregated by ethnicity, gender, and income. So for income, we use the Pell status as a proxy. So it's the same for all other outcome measures. And our colleges widely use this data workbook for the annual reporting purpose, and it also saves the IR office quite some time in calculating ATD student outcomes. Now I'm going to close this and open another one. Okay, the next one is the benchmark report. I'm going to download and open. So again, this report is also based in Excel. So it has an introduction page introducing the ATD student outcome measures, and also shows the methodology we use to compile this report. And then similarly, it shows the ATD's 5 student outcome measures. On each graph, you will see 3 trend lines. The blue line is my college, and the red line is the averages for the colleges that joined ATD in the same year as your college. And the green line represents the averages for the whole ATD network. So you can see the trend lines on each outcome measures by cohort. And then you will also see a data table, which shows you detailed numbers for each indicator. So we have the same information for gatekeeper, course completion, persistence, and completion. And then in the end, you will find a list of colleges, the institutions we included in calculating the ATD benchmarks. And the top part shows you the colleges that joined ATD in the same year. And one little note is that this workbook is formatted for print. So even though it does not look very fancy, because we really have a very small budget to develop this product, when you click print, you do the print entire workbook. So you can see this workbook has been paginated and formatted for printing. I personally like to read stuff on the hard copy. So that's it. Let me go back and close up this one. Okay, the last item on this page is more like a recipe on how to calculate ATD student outcomes. If you're a data person and you would like to see how we cook the book, you can go to this guide, and it's in PDF. So it shows you what variables to use, what codes to include, and what students to include in calculation. So this is really for the people who like to go down to the bottom of this outcome calculation. Okay, I'm going to close this one. I'm sorry, I just locked myself out. Let me go back to the website again. Should be in 1 second. So we'll go back to the sample college, and the next item is the institution overview report. This report is designed very nicely with the goal of, you will be able to share it more broadly on your campus. So it has the online version and the PDF version. The first page, as I introduced, is to summarize the student characteristics of the most 2 recent cohorts. And the bottom page is really the trend line presentation of student outcomes. So one cool feature of this online version is that if you move your cursor around, you will see all the data labels popping out. So it's pretty cool to watch. And I am just going to download the PDF version. Okay, so you can see this 2-page report. If you print double-sided, it's 1 page. So say, for example, if the latest data year is 2012 to 13, you will see the student characteristics for the fall 2012 students and with a comparison to the fall 2011 students. So you have the students' distribution by ethnicity, gender, health status, and the referral to developmental education. A very nice feature of this report is that the data highlights at the bottom of this page. The left part shows you the percentage changes in total enrollment and the referral to deaf English and math. So you can see on this report, you can see this huge increase in the numbers of students who refer to deaf English and math for the 2012 cohort. So program-wise, we probably need to think about what we can do to support these new students with such remedial needs. And let me enlarge this a little bit. So on the on the right hand, you will see significant percentage point changes from prior year. The way we choose to present percentage point change is because sometimes when you see big percentage change in the subgroup, it may not be significant or meaningful in the whole student population. For example, in fall 2012, you have 20 American Indian students, and in fall 2011, you only had 10. That's a 100% increase. So when you look at the distribution in the whole student population, it's not meaningful. So for this, we choose to show the percentage point changes of all the percentages we presented above. So for example, the top one on this list that may be eye-catching is the referral to deaf math. In fall 2011, there were 76% of the students who were not referred to deaf math, which means they're college ready in math. But in fall 2012, only 55% were college ready in math. So that's big change we may need to pay attention to. Okay, the next page is the graphic presentation of the ATD student outcomes for your college before you joined ATD and after you joined ATD. One thing I'd like to call your attention to is that sometimes you see this big fluctuations between years and some weird trend lines. You may need to ask yourself, for your college, if this is a real trend or is it a data issue? If it's the latter, then probably we need to work together to fix it. But overall, trend-wise, I think this college is doing pretty well in terms of gatekeeper completion and the persistence and degree completion. It shows some mild improvement over the years. So that's this report. Let me go back and show you the final item we have released so far. So this is the institution data abstract. Okay, this is really for the data people who are interested in doing further analysis. And also, we recognize the fact that in some colleges, the turnover rate in the IR office is pretty high. So it's really good to have a record to have all the historical data your college has ever submitted to ATD database. One thing I need to call your attention to is the status of data files. This one says not current. So if you see this notice, you will need to click on the request data extract. And then a new data abstract will be created for you. And then you can download the data files. And we also provided the SAS and SPS program for you to import the data into your own statistical software. Okay, I think that's all we have released so far. I welcome your questions.
Okay, great. So as a reminder, there are two ways that you can send in your questions. You can either raise your hand, and we will unmute you so that you can ask your question out loud, or you can send in a question via the question box on your control panel. And so we have a couple of questions already. And so the first, will our previously submitted data be entered?
I think currently the data products use all the data you submitted to the ATD database, from the baseline years to all the implementation years. I mean, if you have any clarification questions to ask, you're welcome to send in too.
Okay. Can we have all of the members of our core team have access to the data tools?
Of course you can. Just shoot me an email and I will connect you with your data advisor who can help you set up accounts on the data submission site.
And we'll be sending out a copy of this presentation with Wei's contact information so that you can reach out to her if you'd like access to the data tools. The next question that we have, for future annual narratives, will we simply need to provide updated year data? So I think this question refers to annual reflections. And so we do ask that you provide data each year updated so that we can see the college's progress that you talk about in the annual reflection. And so for what we see right now, it's something similar to how it has been, in that you will use the data template that we provide, which is part of our data tools package, or you can use a chart or graph generated with the data tools that Wei just showed you if it has the updated data, or you can use an institute-generated chart or graph. Okay. For the next question, Washington State schools use the SAI metrics, so this will not apply. Is there another tool for us in Washington?
I do realize that for quite some Washington colleges, we can't really do the developmental math or English completion, but we certainly provide information on other outcome measures. I'm not sure if in the future, it depends on our resources, if we can develop something special for the Washington State. And also, it has to be, we have to work under our new strategic planning.
Okay. And we have a few more questions. Could someone clarify the measure equals C in all courses within the first 3 years? Specifically, what happens with withdrawals? Are those counted against the measure of attaining C in all courses? For example, how are grades of W categorized for this measure?
I think it depends on your college system. If the withdrawals are shown up in the like a transcript, then it will be counted as an attempt. So this the students would have attempted the course but without completing it. So this will be counted against them. But this is the completing course with C or better is the most controversial measures. Probably we'll be thinking about improvements and changes in the future.
Okay. We have a comment, not a question. I've used these products over the past 6 months and found them to be absolutely invaluable. The best and most user-friendly product I have used. I was able to show all of the metrics to our faculty and staff at our annual data summit, and it was an absolute snap to cull it all together. A huge thanks to those who put these products together. Oh, thank you. We promise that wasn't made up by us.
Thank you. That's a real encouragement. Thank you.
Okay. And it looks like we have a hand raised as well. So Martha, I'm going to unmute you. And it looks like Martha is disconnected, so never mind. All right, does anyone have any other questions? Oh, here we go. Is there a way of drilling down to subgroups in the ethnicity data, such as Native Hawaiians or Filipino, et cetera?
Yes. Although it's not presented in the current data template, we do have the breakdowns by more ethnicity groups. For this set of the first wave of data products, we're just trying to present a standard way of presenting the data to our colleges. And African Americans and Hispanics as most widely used groups. But we definitely have the data in the database.
Okay, great. So we'll just have another minute to have you all get in your questions. Again, you can do that by using the raise hand icon on the control panel, or you can type in your question.
Melanie, while the questions are coming in, I have one for Wei. Wei or Rhonda, actually. Could you say just a little bit about what you think is going to happen, particularly with this developmental ed measure that we have, completion of developmental ed math? I think we need to recognize that there's a lot of changes going on across the country about the way students are either referred to DevEd or not. We have new legislation in several states that say many of the students should just be enrolled immediately in college-level courses. Do we see some impact on our data where it looks kind of screwball all of a sudden in the DevEd measure because we've got a totally different way of counting those students? Or do we predict that that will happen maybe in future cohorts?
This is Wei. Rhonda can correct me if I'm wrong. Currently, we don't see a lot of colleges changing their measures, even though we do recognize the trend of the future developmental courses. We won't be able to report Deaf Edge for the Washington State colleges, and probably in the future not be able to report that for North Carolina and Florida. But to my understanding, some North Carolina colleges are trying to work with our data advisors at JBL to convert their modularized model to the ATD equivalent. But we are trying to explore new ways to capture the relevant information or major milestones for our college students. So in the future, we're just trying to do our best to support the data efforts at our colleges and to make things relevant.
Yeah, I think Florida is the one where we know we're going to start seeing some changes because students don't have to be tested and so forth. So I don't know. Rhonda, do you have anything else to say about that, just whether we might see? I'm just thinking that people should understand if they start seeing some numbers changing, particularly when they're trying to do benchmarking with other institutions or the averages of institutions. We just want to be prepared for this.
Absolutely, Carol. Really good points, because there will come a comparative point where it looks as if all of a sudden you have very, very few students who have tested into developmental ed because there's no longer that requirement. So comparison over time, and in comparison with other states that don't have that same regulation, will create anomalies that will need, caveats and notes to present that type of data. As Wei mentioned, we're considering going forward what other sort of momentum points or milestones we might be able to use as one of our measures, as well as we see some of these things changing across the nation. Also, as Wei mentioned, with some students being able to accelerate within a semester and take different modules and do different types of acceleration, it's creating the real issue of how you track when they complete and what they complete. So there are a number of changes underfoot that will cause us to really analyze carefully how we present the data and how we report the data to you. And we'll be looking to all of you for your guidance and your help on what's happening in your state.
Thanks, Rhonda and Wei. Appreciate that.
Yes, thank you both. And we have another question. Will every institution have access to see each other's data online? So I think that when you logged into the data tool, I think that's what they're referencing.
No, actually, my page is a little bit different because I have access to all the college's data. But when you log on, you only see your own college data. And for the benchmarking report, you only see the aggregated data for your round. The colleges joined in the same year as you did, and the entire ATD network. You know what colleges are included to the benchmarking, but you don't know each individual college's data.
Are the username and password login for the website the same as the information used to submit the annual reflection information, or is it different? So that's actually different. So if you don't have a login for the data product, you can email Wei, and again, we'll be sending out that information in a follow-up in our monthly newsletter as well. And so you can see if you have a login by logging into the dreamwebsubmission.org website that you saw Wei go to. And there's also a forgot password button in case you do indeed have a login but can't quite remember out of the many passwords that you probably have. Okay, any other questions? Again, you can use your raise hand icon on your control panel, or you can send something in via the question pane. Okay. Well, it looks like we have one person on the line, Dan McConaughey. And we will unmute you now. Dan, you're on the line. All right. It looks like Dan did not indeed have a question. So we have one more question sent in. Is it optional or required to upload the data to the Dream Web submission site?
It's required. I believe that's in your agreement when you sign up for the Achieving the Dream initiative. Plus, you get all the nice data products how to upload your data.
Great. So we are going to move on for now, but if you have any further questions, feel free to contact us at info@achievingthedream.org, or if you specifically have a question about the data products, you can email Wei at wsong@achievingthedream.org, and again, we'll be sending out that information with our follow-up.
Well, thank you. Thank you both Melanie and Wei and Rhonda for helping with that good explanation of some of these data tools. Just a couple quick little notes before we sign off. Wanted to mention to you that the next webinar is going to be September 11th. We are going to be putting together a program on engaging faculty. We had intended to do this, you may recall, in I believe it was April or May, and then we ended up deciding to postpone that for a variety of reasons, but we've got it rescheduled for September. The other thing I'll just mention is that we've been examining the webinar schedule, and we've been thinking that instead of trying to keep to a monthly schedule for these seminars, we are going to consider moving to perhaps 8 or 9 a year rather than 12 a year, and take a good look at the academic calendar year to see when we're most likely to have people in their offices and interested in being on a webinar. So the next one will be September. There'll be a couple more in the fall and then some more in the spring. But we'll be sharing a new schedule with you that makes it possible for us to focus in on some important topics, and hopefully it'll be times in of the month when it's going to be easy for all of you to be part of the webinar series. So look for that new schedule soon. With that, I think we're ready to do a quick evaluation and a very big thank you to everybody. Melanie, do you want to do the evaluation, please?
Okay, thanks, Carol. So as you all may know, we have a lot of new folks on the webinar today, but we like to collect some information about how useful each webinar has been for you. So we're going to do a quick poll, and you should see it pop up on your screen there. So if you could please select all the statements with which you agree. This call was useful and informative. I enjoyed the webinar format. This webinar gives me new ideas that we could implement. There was indeed enough time for questions and discussion, and this call did not meet my expectations. So if you could please select all that apply. It's multiple choice. And we'll just give everyone a minute to get your answers in. Okay. Just a few more seconds. Okay, we're just about to close. Can we get to a full 100? Okay, and so we're going to close the poll now, and we'll share those results with you. And so it looks like this webinar was overall very useful for folks. We're glad that you all felt that there was enough time for questions and discussions as well, and that a lot of folks are walking away with some new ideas. And of course, we are never happy to see the call didn't meet your expectations. And we're always open for comments. So please, if you have any suggestions or comments for us, whether it's about topics or the webinar format itself or how you'd like to see it go in the future, please feel free to email us at info@achievingthedream.org.
Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful summer.